We're here with Ashlee Yandle from Terrace Views, Centre Leader of Terrace Views. How are you, Ash?
Good, Ray. How are you doing?
Yeah, I'm good. It's good to have you in here. I think it's just a general chat. I enjoy chatting to people about who they are, what makes them tick, and obviously I think we've got a pretty cool story. So we may as well give that story. We met Ashlee, Courtney and I. Well, Courtney actually met Ashlee, and she rings and she says, "We've got to hire her." And I said, "Where for?" She said, "I don't know." And we've got to get her. She's amazing. And I said to Courtney, "Right, let's get her." And then Ashlee came into an admin space for us for a while, and we said, "Right, we're going to go and find a centre." I don't know how long was it after?
Not long.
Yeah, not long. No. And we went in, and we were thankful to be able to purchase a local centre, and which needed a bit of mahi and turning around. And yeah, here we are. Kind of, what's it been? How long?
I've worked for you for 18 months now.
Okay, there you go. So yeah, and Ashlee's
2 months in limbo, and then in my passion.
Ashlee's really turned and you were pretty deliberate about that, about saying, "Oh, I love turning spaces around."
Yeah.
But it's a cool start to the journey. Was that the complete belief from Courtney in that space, and then us finding a space and turning it into what is future focused Terrace Views. So welcome, Ashlee. Tell us a little bit about where you're from, and just so people know.
Yeah, sweet. Originate from Taranaki and have spent most of my all of my adult life in Melbourne, in Australia, which was amazing life experience. Did my studies over there, worked for amazing people, learnt so much about myself, became the leader I always wanted to be. And then on a limb, we moved home, and fucking grateful we found you.
Yeah, I think the Melbourne journey in terms of your professional career is a pretty cool story in terms of who you were working for and things. But well, you went away by yourself or with Penny?
On my own, in Melbourne, you mean?
Yes.
Yep. So I met Penny, I was year 13, so 7th form on my New Year's holiday, meant to be going to Waikato Uni to study primary school teaching. Met him and decided to move over there on my own. So I think that was probably a big part of why I'm fiercely independent, moving away from home, from my close-knit family who are still really tight. We all are really tight. But I just had that time away, 14 years to be precise, away from that. So I've been able to be my own person and stand really strong, which I'm grateful for. Yeah.
And you came home with 2 beautiful daughters.
Yes, yep.
Tell us about them.
Oh, they're my pride and joy. Koa is probably very, very similar to me, so we butt heads constantly, but I absolutely love her to death. And Marley is a crack up, as you know. So, 6 and nearly 4. So they keep us busy. And
yeah, they are crack up. I think just go back to Mum and what her role was, or is still, sorry.
I don't want to get emotional about my mum, but she's gave us everything, Mum and Dad, but I'm lucky my parents are still together, which is something that's not that common these days. But Mum had a bit of a hard upbringing herself, and then that turned her into who she was as a mum, and we're really grateful it went in a really positive way for us. And she just put her all. I'm one of 4 girls, so I've got twin little sisters and a big older sister, a bigger sister. And yeah, she's just always given us her all. She works as well, obviously, and always worked through our childhood. But I think that's why I am who I am. I work hard and I can manage a 40-hour week and my girls and Penny and juggle it all because I had a really good role model. So.
And Mum's involved in a centre down that way. What's the name of the centre?
Waikato Childcare Centre. So I worked there as a 14-year-old. Got paid by Mum on the side just to help out. Which is pretty cool. So it's been bred in me, and I always wanted to do something in education. I loved being there. And I think the part moving to Melbourne and studying over there, the only part I always knew that was missing was our Māori side. And I'm not Māori myself, but I've always felt such strong roots to home in New Zealand, and moving home and learning so much, like I learn every day. I've got beautiful Māori kaiako, or even, our Pākehā kaiako, who teach me every single day something new and something respectful. So.
And what were you doing in Melbourne, just so everyone knows?
ECE, I was same thing. I studied over there, worked my way through positions. So I started as a unqualified and trained, and then very quickly became a 2AC because I just craved that bit more. And then, as I wasn't quite 21, I got my first centre secondment to manage a centre. It's called centre director over there, but centre leader is the same thing. And,
So how big was that centre? You were 21.
it was actually 120 place, and they
right.
I know, it's huge, and they seconded me to shut the centre. And you know me, I like to flip shit, and it was a pretty it reminds me of Terrace Views, actually. It was just a team who needed love and a space that needed love, and we filled really. I was actually allowed to take enrolments even though we were closing because it was for Good Start. So we had centres in the area that these whānau could go to when we did close. But we ended up getting up to 80% in 2 months of the secondment, and they were like, "Why are we shutting the centre?" We did still shut it, and I went up the road and took most of the families with me to a position came up. It was meant to be, so I got a full-time role.
Pretty crazy. 21.
I know, but I moved away young too.
I think, and I had a rapid progression in my own career. I was principal at 26, but not 21. I mean, I think I was just finishing my degree.
I craved that day. And I think I moved away young. I was 17 in 7th form. So when I moved over to Aussie Penny, I was only 17. So just about 18. I turned 18 that year. So I probably matured quite young moving away from home. Yeah.
Well, yeah, so you've been in a leadership role for, what?
A long time.
Over a decade.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's pretty crazy, isn't it?
But I say to you every day, I learn more and more. And I actually said to one of the Aussie girls was messaging me, one of my friends, Lisa, and she was talking to me. She's got a new role in a centre that I was at, and so she worked under us as she was a beautiful educator, and she's now the director, so centre leader there. And I just sent her a message last night and said, I'm always growing. Leadership is ever changing, and which is cool. Like it's cool for her to see, even though I've been in the role for such a long time, and she will be too. I know she'll do great things. We're always going to be learning. Yeah.
And Good Start are pretty big.
Good Start are huge.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Like how many centres are they?
Well, hundreds across Australia.
Yeah.
I feel like even more than that. And they were amazing to work for until things were purely about money. When I came back from my first maternity leave, a lot had changed in that time, and I know that things changed.
That throws we're throwing in a pandemic here, though, eh?
No, this is COA, so 6 years ago.
Oh, right.
6 years ago, and I came back and I only worked for a couple of months, and it just wasn't for me. And I've got a good business mind, and I know that we need to make money to be a profitable business. That's what we are. But there is a balance of quality, and it was gone. My heart couldn't do it anymore with them. So I found Leslie, my beautiful boss that I left in Australia, and I worked for her until I left. Yeah.
Yeah, it's an interesting story. Certainly, obviously something I didn't realise you became centre leader at 21. I mean, that's pretty phenomenal, in a big space.
Yeah, it was fun.
So how many staff was 120 kids?
So because it wasn't full when I took over, so I probably only had about 15 staff. But as a 21-year-old, I remember my first team meeting, and I sat around this table of people who were all much older than me, and I thought, I would die if someone knew how old I was. And in the meeting, someone asked me, and I had to ignore the question because I didn't want them to. I didn't know them well enough to know that they wouldn't judge me for that or treat me differently. But eventually, we got to that, and they found out my age, and it was fine. Yeah.
So what were some of the experiences that you yourself had in terms of managing some of those fears, doubts, when going into the role so young?
I think learning with experience. Like I see new leaders come in now, and the people pleasing and the need to try and keep everyone happy. I was that as well. I was that person. I started with that. And then you just realise that you've got to have a balance of being a good, kind person, but making things work for a centre or for a room or for a team. And yeah, you find the balance over the years, I guess.
Do you have any sort of leadership principles that you tend to drift towards?
Not as such as titles, but for me it's respect, whanaungatanga relationships. Those are my key. If I don't have that, I don't have a team. Like people can't relate to you if you don't know them. So
what's some of the I mean, I've been lucky enough to see that go on with our own space. What are some of those key methods that you use there, or to build that whanaungatanga, those relationships?
Time, commitment to my role. I think commitment to my people, commitment to getting to know people, just taking time to be in their space, get to know how they work, get to know about their families, asking questions without prying, but things that people want to share, because that's how you can lead and support and manage different situations. Like I like to treat everyone individually. Like I can't manage a whole team exactly the same, because that's not how it works. Yeah, fear, still fear, absolutely. I wouldn't give someone something I wouldn't give another person, but you need to know your people. Know me before you lead me.
Yeah. I know we've been talking a lot about that. Know me before you lead me, and I think.
Yeah.
I mean, we were really fortunate with that Terrace Fuse team when we picked them up. They were like the structure and the bones behind this team were pretty good.
Yeah.
In fact, they were very good.
We've got amazing people with us.
Yeah, and I think the culture of performance is really evident there.
Yeah.
Just talk us through some of those phases when you were talking about a culture of performance. What does that look like to you, and how do you kind of continually manage that?
I think for me and for our team, it's tapping into everyone's strengths. Like we did come in with absolutely no leadership within the centre, no kaimahi roles, no one who sort of stood out as wanting to be in a leadership role. Everyone was quite happy with the way it was. It was not stagnant, but it was real good team vibes. Everyone chimes into their own little strengths. So for us, picking up on those, which some of them were absolutely leadership when you dug deeper and we got to know these people. And then, now we're able to fly with amazing leaders in different roles, or even just people taking on parts of or aspects of the day that, it might be doing an amazing group time, for example, but just making sure that we tap into people's strengths.
And how do you kind of pull those out how do you pull those out and continually tap? Like, what does that look like in practice?
For me, I think praise, gratitude, when people are doing things that are amazing, letting them know, and everyone wants to hear that, and it just supports that to continue. It's a positive snowball, I guess.
I think in terms of appreciation, it's there's certainly a lot of that goes around, and people accepting the appreciation has been pretty evident. I know we often find, and I don't know why, but we often find teachers, they are reluctant for praise. And normalising praise and appreciation in a genuine space is quite a powerful move on your behalf, because we sit in meetings and people talk, and I'm just talking about, like, I'm referring to Armin's his praise for Ellie.
Yeah.
And actually, she just, for someone who's a character and probably wanted to laugh, she actually just looked straight at him and she went, "Thank you."
Oh no.
It was such a beautiful moment.
That was cool.
Because she just accepted it, and that's, I think, been a hallmark of Terrace View's team, is that they're and I do believe this, like they're in a real position of accepting growth now. Yeah. There's a big group of people in that centre, and they just really are into the growth piece.
Which is why I think Te Whare Tapawhā was important for me to continue that and allow more things, or encourage more gratitude and more positive things and more catch-ups out of work and healthiness and well-being, mindfulness, all that stuff. Yeah.
Yeah. What about let's just dig into some of those. It took you a year to implement a room leader kaimahi type space. And so for those individuals that ended up winning those spots, what now? What if any changes, but what happens there? Because you've done really great things without them, although, not saying without them, but without that role.
Yeah.
What changes now?
I just can't wait to see them all fly, because all three of our kaimahis have great things ahead of them, not just in a kaimahi educator space. There's going to be so much more for them out there. And for many of our team members, I see so much growth, and we can never want to keep someone in a role just because we love what they do there. There's always more out there, like more out there for me and you, and, So I think it just opens up more potential, because people will eventually step into that role as they step into more. So, yeah.
How do you ensure that the legacy that they leave as a kaimahi and hopefully, and I agree with you, the growth in their career or whatever actually is certainly a high probability. But how do you then go about making sure that the role carries legacy?
Well, I think any good leader should be able to step out of their role and for someone else to step into it. Or for example, if I have a day off, it doesn't affect our centre. The fact that I'm not there right now doesn't affect our centre because they all know what's expected, and that's the part I think that's the best part of not having these roles for the 12 months. Everyone will absolutely step up into whatever they need to be doing to make sure things are working smoothly. So I think anyone would be proud to step into the kaimahi role even after having the role implemented for 2 weeks. I can see these amazing wahinis stepping into their strong power, and it's really cool to see, whether it's a male that takes over that role. It's just cool to see them stepping into this fierce, we've got an amazing thing to do here. So.
What do you think, what does it look like for Terrace Views in the next 3-6 year? What is it? What are you trying to achieve further now?
Maintaining our centre with very low turnover. I think that's really important for me. Having an amazing team who works together, and we can stay together for quite some time until those people are ready to fly. Maintaining high enrolments, because that keeps us really profitable and an amazing business. And I think our teams, whether they agree or not, they actually flourish more on a day where there's 45 ngā children and if there's a day that it's 30, it just feels odd. They flourish when it's really busy. And so for me, keeping that space really busy and the vibe's really high, and like I said at my meeting, the other night, people coming in and enjoying being in our centre, just a place that they want to be. Work, whānau, our tamariki. I love seeing the positive outcomes that we can have each day. So
just let's step back then. So what's your role, or how do we ensure, or how do you ensure that your role can in that growth piece you're talking about? What does that require from you?
Commitment. Allowing these kaimahi to step up and support me, because it's not all about me, it's about the team, and I should be able to step away if something was to come up for me and someone else to take over and keep that amazingness flowing. I think if everyone's on board, which I feel like we're all in the same waka right now, it's pretty cool. It will just flow.
But where does that come from? Because I know what you're saying,
yeah.
But where does that come from in you? Like, where has that been built? I know you've been a leader for a long
honestly,
time.
home. My mum and dad.
So yeah, because you're talking about your what was school like? What were you like at primary school?
Primary school, I don't remember a lot of that.
Really?
No, I really don't, honestly.
Are you that old?
Yeah, I'm that old. In the 30s, mate. I think for me, year 7 and 8 was really hard. I was severely overweight, really bullied.
Intermediate?
Yeah, intermediate.
A proper intermediate or full primary?
No, Sacred Heart Girls College, so
right.
in New Plymouth, yeah.
Yep.
So it was a college. Yeah, and so year 7 and 8, I was bullied. Not so much at school, but on the school bus, because we come from Waitara, so half an hour, 45 minutes on the bus. And it was severe. It was horrendous, and I was sick every day, and I wanted to go home every day because I had so much anxiety. And then eventually I found my place at college and became a leader in year 13. I was the sports leader, which was cool. From someone who was super overweight to where I came to there. Looked after myself, got myself a job in year 11, I knew I wanted a better life than just to be this depressed child. And that was with the support of my mum and dad and my friends and the group I was with. So,
But talk about that. Like, there's obviously some deliberate moves you've made there from your year 7, 8 experience to becoming a sports leader.
Yeah.
What did that look like in a growth piece there? Because you're going through navigating puberty and growing up in small towns and
yep.
New Plymouth is a pretty big place, but Waitara I know is a very small place.
Yep.
Those sorts of things. What does that look like in that phase there of growth?
I've always had goals. I've always been driven. I wanted Not saying that my sisters are different to me, but I always wanted to have a job and I wanted to buy my own car, and I was wanted that independence so much. I don't know if it's just being one of four, and Mum really did everything for us, which I am so grateful for, and I do the same for my girls. But I really craved that, wanting to achieve things on my own, and the group of people that I was around at school were all really amazing at sports, and I didn't really have my thing. They were my mates. It was cool. But I didn't really have that one hobby that made me me. And then I got a job at a local fish and chip shop in Waitara, Jan's. And I'll never forget that job because it just gave me so much confidence, drive. Like, I wanted to save money. I taught myself a lot of those things from year sort of 11 up. So I've just always wanted more for myself, and I still do today.
Yeah, it fascinates me when I meet people from small places. And like I had a great childhood in terms of like growing up in Tokoroa. I mean, it was awesome, you know. Like, and I grew up at a time where you came back when the street lights turned on, and we were down at rivers and at lakes without parental support, and you know, we did some great things. We did some silly things. We learnt to got to kick up the backside from the neighbours and whatever. But I'm always, because I'm the same, like there was a piece of me that knew that I was destined to do way bigger things. And I've got a good mate, Russell. He talks to me about it too. He was brought up in Foxton, and same thing, you know, like he was just so driven like myself, just to not get out, but knowing that to do great things, to reach what we wanted, that what we're capable of, we had to get out.
I think that was me too. And working at the local fish and chip shop was right on the river, so I saw all the kids that would hang out there, and I was like, that's not me, and it will never be me. I'm here working to get myself out of here, I guess. I'm off to uni, and I'm going to go and do great things, and then met Penny and still went and did great things, but I needed more than Waitara, and I needed more than Taranaki.
It's a pretty brave decision to turn down the Waikato University scenario.
Yes, I started 5 weeks of that. I was brave, but my heart was talking. I really loved this man that I just met, this boy. We were young, and I was head over heels, and I gave that all up.
Did you meet the bro in Hamilton?
At the Mount, actually. We're back in our hood. We were both away for New Year's with friends. He was on a holiday from Melbourne, and I was up with my mates from Taranaki.
And I admire the bravery because, you know, when I stepped away from the principalship, people said I was throwing away my career.
I got told that with you.
And I can guarantee you, people, I absolutely know, I always know this, that people that are closest to you would be telling you you're making a mistake.
Yep, I got that. And that Penny, it wouldn't work out in Melbourne, and well, it did. And that feels good too. Yeah,
it does. But so we're talking about a bit of bravery now. So in terms of bravery, and I mean, that's certainly something I'd associate with you. And you are brave. You are brave in your leadership style. You're brave in your desire to back up your talk. You know, but where does this? Where has been what's been a limiting factor for you?
Probably for me, I think I've talked about my caring side, which at times can come across as people-pleasing, or I take on the personal emotions of everybody in my space, and that can be really heavy and deep. This year has probably been my biggest year of growth around that, and being able to say, like, I'm really sorry you're going through this, but this is what we need, or this is, you know, moving forward, this is what we're going to do. So it's okay to support people, but it can't lead all my decisions. I can't lead them by emotion. I have to lead them with my head as well.
How do you govern that? How do you know that that's the phase you're in?
Honestly, it's a juggling, and sometimes I don't get it right. It's okay to not get it right because I'm learning from that. But no, I just think I've come so far with that, because it's not about letting people walk all over you, but having a good relationship so it doesn't come to that, I guess. Yeah. Having a respectful relationship is really different to people-pleasing or letting people walk all over you.
Talk more to that. What is that?
I think it's okay to not be able to meet everyone's needs personally. Well, for example, in our team, we've got a lot of mums, or dads. We've got dads as well. And there are definitely things that they need, and it's important, you know, pop off to cross-country, and where we can support that, absolutely. But I think that people don't take that too far or overstep the mark with that because they have that respect for me and for Future Focus that's not going to work. And that's just about putting in boundaries, and you've seen me set boundaries before. So being brave with that, because I haven't always been.
Yeah, it's the desire to not let people down.
Yeah.
Often means you will let yourself down, or are a large majority.
It's very true.
You know, that's the danger, right?
Yeah.
It's the
The juggling act.
and it's the danger is, you know, to not let down an individual. The team just cop it, and I think that is a major leadership mistake.
Mm-hmm.
You know, we were talking about this the other day, that there's a phase that it goes through, and we've been through it this year, where we're really talking about, you know, minimising turnover and increasing value. And when it comes back down to when I initially built that, we were talking about minimising turnover, and I started with staff alone, really, because, you know, there's not heaps of teachers out there available for a starter, but also I know the best teams I work with were the consistent teams.
Yep.
You know, in that space for increasing value, though, what's been some of the real highlights for Terrace Views, for yourself, for your own leadership journey, that you've seen through that pillar of the pyramid, that increasing value?
I think pouring our all into our teams to make them feel respected, valued members of Future Focus. Their voice matters, but also having the people that actually really want to be there. It's not just about a paycheck. It's about our tamariki and our whānau and the team, you know, wanting to be a part of a really cool team. And there's definitely been people who have decided that wasn't for them, and that's okay. And sometimes that hurts at the time, but everyone has their own journey, and you reflect on your part in their decision, and then we learn and grow and move forward.
Yeah, there's been some pretty cool examples too of people feeling like they're being heard, right?
Yeah.
You know, I think you've got to constantly, as any leader should, I think you've got to constantly look for evidence that people feel heard. Mm-hmm. I mean, there's no doubt that people that don't feel heard or acknowledged, their fulfillment in a job is always low, their satisfaction.
Yeah.
There's been, it's, I think when I come into Terrace Views and I see, and I spoke about this at the meeting, I really appreciate that they appreciate time with me. Mm-hmm. You know, and it's small things, like I literally walk around, say hello, you know, catch up, you know, see some kids and things. But I think the increase in value that has been just extremely noticeable is just people's presence with their role.
Yeah, absolutely.
You know, it's just like you talked, I mean, I didn't get to see it, I saw some of the video, but, you know, pouring down rain yesterday, shocking, and, you know, just shocking. And the teams are just so engaged, messy play. And Sammy came and showed me the videos and stuff, and she's like, oh, they were all just engaged with messy play, and all the teachers were doing this. Cool. And yeah.
For me, that was like, so I went on a rainy day, I walked around, just a little mental health check, make sure everyone's okay. To be honest, it's really hard on a day when we've got 90 children and it's pouring. And I just walked around and saw greatness in every single room. There was something cool going on, hence why I put a message on last night. Appreciate that, because it's not always easy when you turn up and you know it's going to be an inside day with a whole heap of children with all this energy, and they just had literally brought outside in. There was just so much for them to exert their energy and learn. So
I just and it is a huge appreciation, because it is hard. It is hard being inside in that space with heaps of kids.
But can I say I was really grateful that came off the back of our amazing meeting the night before.
Well, like, that's where I want to head. So, you know, we're talking about, as a leadership team, trying to build in a creativity phase. And to me, like, the best times that I've had in business and in my own career is phases of creation. Mm-hmm. So just talk backwards a wee bit from that meeting, you know, because I got to sit in with that conversation with you and Lauren, but I think there was a step before that.
Yeah, we so that was just our internal evaluation, and which we had been focusing on sort of who we are as a centre for the last 12 months and figuring out and what that looked like, and then we wanted to dig deeper kind of as to where we can go. So our new question is going to be all around increasing value and how do we increase value as Future Focus Terrace Views. I was chatting to Lauren about how are we different to a centre down the road, and I don't want to just know. I don't want to hear these, dumb little things like, oh, we're open half an hour more, or we're, whatever it might look like. But what are we actually doing inside? How are we as a team? How is our team different? Or how is the vibe different, the feel different for our whānau? There's so much more to that than just what we offer for the daily price. It's not just about that. So that's where that came from. Yeah.
What a powerful question. I mean, I'm always asking myself that, well, what makes us any different to Best Start or, or some of the other local centres like Blue Cottage and I'm not, to me personally as well, I'm not actually necessarily saying better.
No.
What I am saying is what makes us different. What is the value? I know that I can go to Macca's and get a Big Mac. I can't go to BK and get a Big Mac.
Yeah.
That's I get the barbecue bacon burger from.
Yummy.
Yeah, I do like the barbecue bacon. But it is absolutely, I don't think enough leaders, and quite frankly, it actually is very hard to see your own blind spots in that space. And I think that's one thing for me, and I haven't got my diary, but I did write some notes around this. How do we audit that? How do we audit? Because the likelihood is, if I went and sat with any centre owner, they would probably tell me that their centre's the best, But what evidence do we have of that?
Yeah.
What evidence do we have that you are the better vending machine owner or the better cleaner or the better hairdresser or the better coach or the better... What evidence? What evidence suggests that? And asking internally some of those pieces, like what you did at the meeting the other night, asking that question and asking it regularly allows us to really focus on what we discussed and what we actually ended up at. It was our blind spots, right?
Yeah.
Because that was an interesting conversation, the blind spots. And I could see people's brains clicking.
Yeah.
Clicking, turning over. I could, I was looking at Shay and my mate Armin right next to me, and a few people were really, their brains clicking over, thinking, either A, I don't know my blind spot, or B, I know it and I haven't done anything about it.
Yeah.
When we're talking about us as an organisation, Future Focus, just what is that? What are our blind spots?
That's a hard one to answer. But I think for me, it's not even calling out people's blind spots, but digging deeper with them for them to get to the answer of what their blind spot is, so we can support them through that. Because I think in the meeting there were a few people who were quite happy to call out other people's but not acknowledge their own, and that's huge personal growth, to be able to acknowledge your blind spot and know what you're doing about it to work on it. But for Future Focus,
as an organisation, or me personally, I know I like going around and having those conversations because I'm vulnerable with my own blind spots. I'm pretty vulnerable as an organisation, as a collective with Terrace Views. It was pretty evident that there's some people in there that they have not addressed their blind spots. They knew them, but they hadn't addressed them. Yeah.
Yeah.
Why do you think they don't address it?
Stagnant in their ways. Not even like I know all, I'm not making any changes. Not even that. It's just can be really uncomfy to dig into stuff that.
Yeah, I don't believe any of those people are saying, "Oh, I know it all."
Yeah, no, not at all.
I don't think that's.
No.
I know that certainly can be the case.
Yeah.
But I don't believe that is the case down there.
No, I just think it's uncomfortable stuff, and it's generally home life or past experience or trauma, to be honest, from childhood or.
Yeah, and I think we really are committed to knowing our teachers. Like.
Oh, absolutely. I could sit them down and I could let them know what I thought their blind spot was, but that's not fair.
No.
Yeah, that's not a part.
We've got to build
of
environments.
Knowing, yeah.
We've got to build environments that allow them to bring it up and address it.
And for us to say, how can we help with it?
Yes.
Yeah.
Well, at least be able to be accessible for them to help with that.
Or talk through it, because even talking through it helps.
Yes. But our sector hasn't supported that.
No.
You know, that's a major bugbear. When I first came into the sector, coming from primary school as well, I just couldn't believe the level of fear that was. I just couldn't believe it. And I had Andre, one of my best mates. He's been in primary school for a long time too. When we started hearing stories, we just couldn't believe it. We couldn't believe that this is an education sector. It's critical, and the level of fear of. And I'll give you one example that really grinds me. People going for job interviews and not being able to tell their centre leader or the owner that they're going for a job interview. Like they have to hide it.
Yeah.
And, oh no, you can't call them for a referee. Or, you know, like
they're owned by that person.
Fascinates me.
No growth
you know, like
support.
well, I remember with Ian Taylor, and he's someone I speak about all the time. Ian was my principal. My principal when I was at working at Manirua Intermediate. And he's a pretty hard fellow. Like I love him. I love his approach and his enthusiasm is second to none, especially for the kids of Manirua. I just remember rocking in and saying, like, I'm going to apply for some jobs over these other places just purely because at the time Courtney was pregnant, it was closer to work, closer to home, and I wanted to be there more for the baby because it was Marlo and he was just like, sweet, cool. How can I help? You know, like I don't. And then yet this is a major blight on this sector is that no one can talk to anyone about going to get a job until they actually get given a contract and they've signed it.
It's all very hush-hush.
Yeah.
Yeah. Secretive. Where is the support for growth?
People are scared.
Yeah.
Because they're like, oh, well, if I don't get the job and then...
they will literally make your life hell.
Yeah, Ashley's found out that you're applying for a job and, yes, you know.
I would want to talk about the why. Firstly, why don't you tell me?
Correct,
Why are you leaving? And let's support you with that.
Yeah, I just that was the first piece that I really noticed. I was like, well, hang on, that doesn't make sense to me because if you're unhappy and it's because of us, we need to know.
Yes.
Because how do we grow?
God, yeah.
The level of fear involved in this sector was just. It's unacceptable, actually, and I know that we're going a long way to addressing that, and I think that's part of the reason why I've really tried to water down my title of owner, because that carries a level of fear, and that I don't believe it's justified for a starter. Like in me, I'm not talking about other owners. I'm talking about me. I'm not talking even for Courtney. I'm just talking about me personally, because how do we then know and understand our people if they're carrying a level of fear
around being near you?
Try petting a dog that has the potential to be aggressive. You can never really go in and give the dog a hug, even though you might want to, because it might bite you.
Yeah.
You know, and that's quite imminent in our sector. Okay. Well, look, Ashlee, I won't hold you too much longer. I think one thing we have been asking people at the end of the podcast is, can you give us you don't have to give us the full name, but can you give us the name of a child that has had a major impact on you as an educator, and what that impact was?
Yes, I can. Her name was Amelia, and I would have been 18 and I was in a room leader role. I just started studying and they gave me this room leader role, which was exciting. It was cool when I was in Aussie. And I just never wanted this little girl to go home at night because I knew that there was stuff going on at home, and this is going back like 15 years ago. And reporting in Australia was like very hush-hush. You don't report anything, and even if you do, they're going to do nothing about it. And I was so brave, and I reported this baby, and social workers came and picked her up from daycare from me. And it was probably the hardest thing that I ever had to do because I knew what would happen, and they actually did something about it. And I was so proud of myself. But that baby always sits with me because I just think there's so much more to our role than just educating and teaching. We have the well-being of this whole child at our fingertips, and making sure that we're supporting whānau and so that they can do their best role and without judgment as well. she'll always sit with me. Yeah, I remember she had a little birthmark and it was like a strawberry on her head. Beautiful, beautiful baby. But that was probably the first brave move I made in my career.
Well, we're really hoping Amelia's all good.
15 years old now.
Yeah, well, and Ashlee, we really love your contributions to this organisation. I know we've got big things coming in this sector, but it's only built around people like yourself. So I really appreciate having this time to sit through these sorts of conversations, and we do this probably more often than not. But thank you for all that you do for your team and for us. We really love and respect your abilities, and the challenge for me is trying to keep out the challenges in front for you. So, which is an exciting challenge for me.
Yeah.
But I'm sure we will get there. So thank you very much.
And thanks for taking a chance on me, because here we are. Grateful. Always.
Yeah. All right. Thank you, Ashlee.
Thank you.